I remember when I was a kid going outside and looking up at the stars and going, wow, I wonder what's out there. And you watch science fiction on TV, which is really just people wondering what's out there and coming up with ideas for what it is. Hubble is a tool that can take you out there to those distant galaxies, those pictures that come back. I wonder what's out there. Hey, here's a picture of something that's out there. Wow, that's amazing.
I'm not an astronomer, but I can tell you that whenever I talk to people, everyone has heard of the Hubble Space Telescope and seen the images that have come back from some of the instruments and are fascinated by what they see in those images, not only because they're beautiful, but also because of the questions that are asked and also answered by looking at these images.
Well, it's been important for, not just for astronomy, but for physics. I mean, they're really rewriting the physics books. I mean, the physics books that we had back in high school, I mean, they're literally being rewritten from the things that they've learned from Hubble.
The Hubble Space Telescope is more than remarkable. It has produced all of the science that we expected it would. The discovery that black holes really do exist and occupy the center of nearly every galaxy. Massive black holes, millions of times the mass of our sun. It's measured the age of the universe, 13.7 plus or minus 0.1 billion years old. Very accurate number. It's answered just so many of those fundamental questions that people have been asking about the cosmos since people were able to ask questions.
With the launch of STS-125, Space Shuttle Atlantis and its 7-member crew are on a mission to once again push the boundaries of how deep into space and far back in time humanity can see. It is a flight to upgrade what already may be the most significant scientific instrument ever launched. And for the Space Shuttle, it is a final visit to an old friend. STS-125 will be the last mission to the Hubble Space Telescope. With almost 2 decades of historic and trailblazing science already accomplished, Hubble will be reborn with servicing mission 4. Over 11 days and 5 spacewalks, astronauts will deliver new cutting-edge science instruments to Hubble along with gyroscopes, batteries, and other components crucial for the telescope's continued success through the year 2013. The spacewalks will include the replacement of a crucial science computer that failed just 2 weeks before the original STS-125 launch date in October 2008. This failure caused the mission to be delayed, while scientists and mission managers worked to add a replacement part and repair activities to the mission manifest. The crew of Atlantis is a mix of experienced astronauts and first-time space travelers, including several who are making return trips to the orbiting telescope. Scott Altman will serve as Atlantis's commander on this historic mission to Hubble. Altman commanded the STS-109 Hubble servicing mission in 2002 and flew as the pilot on 2 other shuttle missions, STS-90 and STS-106. Navy Reserve Captain Greg Johnson will make his first voyage into space as the pilot of Atlantis. Johnson is a former Navy test pilot and NASA research pilot. Mission specialist Mike Good will also be making his first spaceflight. Good, who is an Air Force colonel with more than 2,100 hours in 30 different types of aircraft, will serve as Mission Specialist 1 and will conduct a pair of spacewalks. Megan MacArthur will make her first flight into space aboard Atlantis as Mission Specialist 2. She will act as the lead operator of the shuttle's robotic arm, capturing Hubble once Atlantis catches up to the telescope. She will also operate the arm during nearly all of the mission spacewalks. Mission Specialist 3, John Grunsfeld, an astronomer, will be making his 3rd trip to Hubble and his 5th spaceflight. Grunsfeld is an experienced spacewalker with a total of 5 spacewalks to service the telescope during STS-103 in 1999 and STS-109 in 2002. He will add 3 more spacewalks to his log during STS-125. Mission Specialist 4 is Mike Massimino, a native of Franklin Square, New York. Massimino will also make his 2nd trip to space and 2nd visit to Hubble with a pair of spacewalks. First-time space traveler Drew Feustel rounds out the STS-125 crew as Mission Specialist 5. Feustel is one of the 4 spacewalkers who will venture into Atlantis' payload bay to repair the space telescope.
Well, this is the 5th servicing mission to the Hubble Space Telescope, and what we're going to do is basically extend the life of the telescope for another few years, another 5 years at least, hopefully, and we're also going to repair and upgrade some of the instruments on board the telescope. And the way we're going to do that is by capturing the telescope and placing it in the shuttle's payload bay, and then some of our crew members will do 5 different spacewalks to do this repair and upgrade work.
The crew of Atlantis will install 2 new instruments during those 5 spacewalks, the Cosmic Origin Spectrograph and the Wide Field Camera 3. The Cosmic Origin Spectrograph will allow researchers to explore the cosmic web in extreme ultraviolet frequencies. The Cosmic Origin Spectrograph replaces COSTAR, the corrective optics package that was installed during STS-61 to remedy the spherical aberration discovered after the telescope was launched in 1990. The Wide Field Camera 3 will allow the telescope to see across the light spectrum from ultraviolet to optical to infrared.
Imagine what kind of digital camera you could buy in 1990. Well, you couldn't. They weren't on the market yet. Well, nowadays, of course, you can go out and buy phenomenal cameras, and the astronomy community can create even better cameras for astronomical research.
The spacewalking astronauts will also work to perform the first on-orbit repair of existing instruments that have degraded or failed, including the Space Telescope Imaging Spectrograph and the Advanced Camera for Surveys, which produce many of Hubble's most dramatic images. In order to allow those instruments to operate, the crew of STS-125 will need to perform some routine maintenance, similar to servicing a car on Earth. That service will include replacing 6 large batteries that power the telescope. The batteries are charged by the telescope's large solar arrays. The astronauts will install new rate sensor units that house Hubble's gyroscopes. These gyros are used to point the telescope with a very high level of precision. They will also install new thermal blankets to help protect the instrument from the dramatic temperature swings as the telescope is exposed to the frigid cold of darkness and the intense heat of daylight. The spacewalks to repair and refurbish Hubble will be very different from the spacewalks conducted to build the International Space Station, which often include maneuvering large sections of the complex into place. Hubble spacewalks have been compared to performing surgery rather than doing construction, with the astronauts working in a surgical suite, performing highly dexterous work as the telescope is berthed on a rotating platform, akin to a lazy Susan at the rear of Atlantis' cargo bay. During the first spacewalk, astronauts Grunsfeld and Feustel will replace a critical piece of equipment, the Science Instrument Command and Data Handling Unit. The new unit will replace the one that stopped working in September 2008, delaying the service mission for several months.
As we got to 2 weeks out, we got the word that on orbit, a series of boxes actually, in the way that the scientific data comes down to the ground, had failed. Its primary site had been working for 18 years, but that channel failed, and so NASA switched over to the other side, a side B from side A, and eventually was able to start getting data down again, but then we were presented with a problem. Should we fly and do the repairs to a telescope that now only had one way of getting data down to the ground, and if that failed, the telescope wouldn't be able to do science anymore? If that goes out, now none of those scientific discoveries, none of those pictures of galaxies are able to get through and come down to the ground.
So we're going to go up there with a new box that will have a new A and B side, so it'll have redundancy, and hopefully both channels will be working, and we'll be able to leave it there with the confidence that in case this problem happens again, we won't be out of luck. They'll still have a backup channel for it.
Many of the instruments on Hubble were not designed to be repaired in space. In fact, they were specifically designed not to come apart. Repairing these delicate instruments won't